For those of you who read the trigger warnings and said accidental cannibalism, count me in. This one's for you. Howdy loves. I'm getting a little bit concerned. I have yet to find a 5-star read this year, which I think is tragic. Last year, I found my first 5-star read in June, and even I thought that was late. Only found 4 5-star reads last year, despite the fact that I read 78 books. This year, I am a little bit behind on my reading. I've only read almost 30 books this year, but I feel like I finally got out of my reading slump, and I feel like it's time to make sure that I find a 5-star read. This video ends when I find a 5-star read. First up on the docket, Mile High. So I've heard a lot about this book, a hockey romance. She's a flight attendant. He's like this bad boy of hockey, although it's just a reputation of his. They kind of banter and spar because they don't really get along. He's kind of trying to put her in her place and she's not taking it. I started a little bit last night, off to a little rocky start. We get both point of views, right? So we get Stevie, who is the girl, and then we get Xanders, who's the guy. Stevie's perspective is just like, she just wants to be left alone. She doesn't really want to deal with him. She doesn't want to fraternize. And he's kind of all up in her business because he is kind of bored with women lately. And he pulled up his phone because he had a notes app of like all of the greatest, basically sexual things that they do to him. I hate everything about that. Like, I don't care that he's doing that, but to have a notes app with all the women just so that you can keep track of who's the easiest lay, like that's just a little skeevy to me. Off to a rocky start, but I do like the banter. The banter is really good. And I also just like this book, it's so pretty. All the chapters start with this like black page. You know what my fear is that I'm gonna pick a book right off the bat and it's gonna be a 5-star immediately and the video's over. I have been reading it nonstop for the last 2 days and I really love the development. I was really scared in the beginning. Z changed his attitude and the way he's portrayed in the media is not real to who he is, and I liked how they showed that. His relationship with Stevie is just so stinking cute, which is why I've made so much progress in the last 2 days. I'm kind of waiting for the shoe to drop because the 3rd act breakup I know is coming and I'm just really worried of like what's going to happen between Z and Stevie because they're in such a good place right now. Like, I was really worried at first because they jumped so quickly into hooking up, and I don't really love books like that, Friends with Benefits. They like hooked up and then all of a sudden there was like no spice for like a while. Suddenly they were really developing the emotional relationship between him and Stevie. He wanted to just talk with her. He was suddenly invested in like the dog shelter that she works for, and they just had some really cute moments together and I really like it. And if I think this is good, I've heard that the 2nd book, The Right Move, is like ungodly. I'm really happy that I picked up this book. So I finished Mile High. I even read this during my lunch break at work. I was so into it. There was a moment there, a little close to the end, where I was like, oh my god, is this gonna be 5 stars? But it came really close and no cigar. I ended up giving this book 4.25 stars. I thought that the relationship between Stevie and Z was so cute. Like, absolutely, their development was fantastic. And the ending was just so fulfilling. But there were just some parts that I wasn't obsessed with. At the end, there was so much miscommunication going on. Like, it just felt like there were way too many missed meetings at the end. It was just dragging on for a little long at the end for me. And then additionally, I understand that the plot was that Z had a really bad reputation, but he had so many spiels in the book about that. The way that he would say it, like they would kind of tell us about it instead of showing it a lot of the times. But overall, I did like the book, so I ended up rating it 4.25 stars. And now I'm on to my next book, which is Butcher and Blackbird. The next book I attended was Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. This is the first in the Ruinous Love trilogy. This was a pick from my book club. It was very different than anything that I had tried before. This is a dark romantic comedy in which the 2 main characters are serial killers of terrible people. It is portrayed in a very comedic way. The 2 main characters have various reputations about them, and they actually end up meeting each other when they go after the same person accidentally. Blackbird actually got there first, but she got in a little trouble and Butcher was there to bail her out. Ever since then, they have decided to meet up once a year, every year, to have a little competition, to have a little game, and they would pick a selected target and whoever got to the target first won. They end up having a very sweet romance actually, and so they end up liking each other outside of this competition and getting to know each other in their day-to-day lives, because they do have regular jobs outside of just serial killing.
It's my lunch break and I started reading Butcher and Blackbird. Let me just read you the dedication. For those of you who read the trigger warnings and said accidental cannibalism, count me in. This one's for you. Of course, referring to the giant list of content and trigger warnings. It feels sort of like Deadpool-y, like kind of like graphic, but also, not gonna lie, makes me a little squeamish given where they start.
I finished Butcher and Blackbird. This book actually took me so little time because number one, it's not that big of a book, and number two, it's very compelling. Pacing is good, the story flowed really well. It was a very interesting read because there was a lot going on. It was a good competition, it was fun to read. It was also like a great romance. I love the smutty romances, but this had me Googling stuff. But it was honestly like such a fun read, not gonna lie. It wasn't amazing, it wasn't anything like riveting or anything. It was just enjoyable, like it was a good fun time. So I ended up giving this book 3.75 stars. It was great to entertain myself, but it wasn't my 5 stars. So I think I'm gonna go with Wild Love. I debated whether if I should do like a romance or a romantasy, and honestly I'm a little fantasy burnt out right now just because of the last fantasy series I read that didn't turn out to be the greatest. And I think the romances are just like quick and easy for me right now, and I'm having a really fun time delving into that genre again. So I'm gonna do Wild Love by Elsie Silver because I heard that this book was fantastic. I also did enjoy her previous series, the Chestnut Spring series. I think I'm gonna go ahead and delve into this. This is the first in the Rose Hill series. This is about Ford Grant and Rosie. Rosie goes back to her hometown because she has just had a really bad experience at her job. She was fired due to an inappropriate circumstance that was not her fault. She's having an identity crisis, and so she goes home where Ford Grant has just realized that he is the biological father to a little girl. He had donated sperm. This little girl shows up at his door looking for help because her father had just died and her mother's in bad shape. So he takes his biological daughter in to take care of her. The two of them try to help each other in raising this little girl. He also hires Rosie to be a part of his team because he's trying to produce a record label. And Rosie really does love the business side of it and wants Cora and Ford to bond over music.
While I was on the road, because I'm in Canada now, I finished Wild Love in the car. Thoroughly enjoyable, very good. It was very good smut, I will say. And honestly, like this was top book boyfriend. Like he just went above and beyond for her. And I just love when guys are like down bad for the women in their lives. Like at the gym, except she wasn't crying at the gym because he was absolutely obsessed with her. Like he spent tens of millions of dollars on her just to fuck with her boss that ruined her career. And he bought her so many things. He gave her his dock, like to the lake on his property, like made the deed in her name so that she could claim the dock. Oh, and he carried her diary key as a necklace for 10 years, even when she was another man. Yeah, that's the right face you're supposed to make.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry.
And she threw her diary out the window because she was so pissed at this guy, and he went and found it and kept it for 10 years and then returned it to her. And then every day she would like tear out pages with their story in it, and she would like leave it on his desk. Like there were so many cute moments in the story. The only thing that really downgraded it, because it wasn't a 5-star read, it was 4 stars, was that they really kept going back and forth. Like I understand in the beginning the bickering was really fun, like it was cool to have that sort of banter. I love good banter, but it just became way too annoying near the end. I was like, we're literally 3/4 of the way down and you're still wondering if you should be together. Like it was kind of weird in that way. Also, huge bonus, there was a single dad trope in here in very unconventional way, might I add, but the relationship between him and his daughter, like Ford was such a good dad even though he was late to her life. I think that they made such a cute family. So 4 stars for this one. It was really, really cute, but I'm still hunting for 5 stars. The next book that I'm reading is Leather and Lark. I just read Butcher and Blackbird with my book club, and now we're on to book 2.
This, just like the first book, does have a dark comedic spin on it. It is funny, I'll give it that. It's a very funny read. The main characters are both killers. However, the male main character, Lakeland, is a contract killer, and he does not like his boss. He wants out of that contract. However, he messed it up because he pissed off Lark, whose family was employing his boss to do their dirty work. At the same time, Lark's family is having members of their family keep getting killed and they don't know why, and they start to suspect that it is Lakeland, or maybe his brother who's helping out Lakeland, who is married to Lark's best friend. Lark hears about this, and so she proposes to Lakeland, hey, let's get married. Let's just pretend to my family that this is real, and that way I can save my best friend's relationship. So I just wanted to do a quick update on Leather and Lark, the last book that I attempted to read in hopes that it would be a 5-star. Alas, it was not. I did recognize right away that this was not as good as Butcher and Blackbird. It was funny, it was entertaining, it just wasn't amazing, okay? So I ended up rating this book 3.25 stars. The reason that I have rated it a little bit lower is just a couple of things. Number one, this is a marriage of convenience, and I felt that the reason for the marriage of convenience just didn't make that much sense to me. The reason that Lark decided to marry Lakeland is because her family thinks that he is responsible for all the killings that are going on to both sides of her family. They would rather just kill him and possibly his brother to get rid of any potential damage that he may be causing. Matriarch of the family, this Aunt Ethel character, who is honestly a hoot, she was amazing, kind of pushes her niece into it, Lark, and comes up with this idea that, like, you know, marriage is so important to your parents, like they value it above all else, a vow is sacred. I just don't see how that's the most logical conclusion. Am I the only one who just doesn't think that makes sense? Lakeland and Lark are married, and like I said, it's because all of these killings are happening to both sides of Lark's family. Now, throughout the book and at the end actually of Butcher and Blackbird, you get the perspective of Phantom, who is a serial killer. He's obsessed with like the Bible, and he's trying to get revenge for his brother's death. Butcher and Blackbird, Sloane and Rowan from book 1 were the ones who killed his brother. Rather than doing anything at all to Sloane and Rowan, this serial killer decides, I'm gonna take vengeance on Lark. What does that have to do with anything? She is the most removed. The whole time he's like, an eye for an eye. Like, I'm gonna take your brother because you took my brother. He goes after the people in Lark's family first. That doesn't make any sense. Like, honestly, until they said it, I really thought that the Phantom serial killer who is obsessed with taking vengeance and the killer who was hurting people on Lark's family were two separate people. That would have made more sense to me than that they're the same person. And the reason that they got married in the first place was because this person was killing people on both sides of the family. So Lark didn't even become important to this family until after the killings already started. It's like a chicken and egg thing. Like, it did develop into a place that was entertaining. Lakeland was very sweet on Lark. Like, he really tried to get to know her. I thought the cutest thing was that, like, he brought her to a sleep retreat because she was having insomnia, and he wanted her to sleep. He was trying to give her like tea, eye masks, you know, like different solutions, and nothing was working. So he like brought her to a sleep retreat and was like, I need you to be able to sleep. I thought that was really cute. And then he made her like this outfit for her concert so that she would have something cute to wear that was like very sparkly and cute. I loved it. The book is just funny as hell. Like, it's really a dark comedy. I thought the most hilarious part was when Lakeland finds Lark's trophy like case or deletions. One of them was a finger in a jar, and he turned it over and it was a snow globe. He was like, are you effing kidding me? I thought that was hilarious. I'm still on the hunt for my 5-star read. The next book that I'm gonna read is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. And guys, I'm like giddy to read this. I've heard that this is so good. And like, I'm in love with the premise. The fact that like this girl, because basically the premise is that there's this kingdom called the Elites, and the ruler of the kingdom basically wants to banish people who are ordinary. So they basically have this plague, and some people who survived actually got powers from it, and other people remained normal or died because of the plague. And to keep the status of the society as elite, they're trying to banish all the people who are just regular people. So this girl, because she wants to stay in the kingdom, she pretends to be an elite by pretending to be psychic. She ends up, I think, saving one of the royals and enters into this trial where they have to basically showcase the powers that she doesn't have and she's faking. I heard such good things about the main couple in this book. And I've been reading a lot of romances recently, albeit very dark ones. I'm excited for a little fantasy read. I am roughly 50% of the way through the book. It's getting really good. I felt like the beginning was a little rocky. The more the book I read, the more I enjoyed it. I feel like in the beginning, the premise was good, like it was fine, but I feel like the banter between Kai and Peyton was a little cliche, too caricature-ish. I don't know, I wasn't in love with it, but then the writing sort of smoothed out, the plot picked up, and their relationship became a lot more addicting as the book went on. So I'm really enjoying it right now. I've only been reading it for like 2-3 days, and as I said, I'm already like 50% of the way through, so like I'm really excited with it. They just finished trial 1, and I think it's hilarious that like instead of Kai, this like murderer enforcer guy who's supposed to be so focused on winning, he's like flirting with Peyton the whole time. Wow. I love it. Kit, his brother, who's the heir to be king, is also into Peyton, and he's like trying to like woo her, I guess. Like they're in the gardens right now, and like he's trying to impress her, and I'm just not interested. I don't know if they're like setting it up to be more painful that he turns out to be a bad person. It's really good, and I do like the world that they're living in, even though it's pretty much a direct copycat of the Hunger Games, but with supernatural powers, like literally the same as Hunger Games, like the premise, the hand gestures, what they think of everything. I'm not really sure how I feel about that.
Personally, I thought this book was entertaining. I rated it 4 stars. However, I don't think it's as great as everyone has been making it seem. I just think that it was way too similar to the Hunger Games in some points. Like it's just the Hunger Games but with powers. Suzanne Collins really did that, trademarked it, made a huge success off of it. Like you can't really repeat and reuse and recycle that. Additionally, I also thought that a lot of the rules with these powers kept being bent or revised in very convenient ways for the writing. For example, the main guy Kai, who is downright scrumptious, his power is to be able to sense powers off of other people. So then you think, okay, well this girl is cooked because he can obviously look at her and be like, you don't got shit. Okay, but no, he reasons, he's like, okay, well she's not using her powers right now, right this second, which is why I can't feel anything. There are other people who are using their abilities who aren't using their abilities that he can feel their power anyway. So I'm like, why didn't you do that to her? What would have made more sense to me was because she saved him. What would have made more sense to me was if he knew she didn't have powers and didn't say anything because he felt indebted to her. So there were just a lot of examples like that where the rules weren't consistent, and I get it, it's a fantasy, right? But I do like consistency in the world building. But was it entertaining? Yes. For a fantasy romance, pretty entertaining. Bought book 2 as well, so I will be continuing with the series. It just wasn't as mind-blowing as everyone made it out to be. The next book that I read absolutely rocked my world. Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the first in the Boys of Tommen series. This was very different than I expected it to be. It was so popular on Book Talk. I assumed because it was called Tommen College, it was a college romance, but that is not the case. The main characters are 16 and 17, and they are set in an Irish private school. This book is about Shannon Lynch, and she is so severely bullied that her parents take out a loan to send her to a private school instead, where Johnny Kavanaugh, famous star rugby player, is going to school as well. He and Shannon run into each other because he accidentally kicks a ball and hits her head. He feels so bad about it, but ever since, they just can't stop crossing paths. She also has a very dark secret in the fact that her family is very abusive. Her father will not leave her alone and particularly blames her for a lot of things that go on in the house. She has a lot of siblings to take care of, and she's worried what will happen because her and her brother are on the way out, but they have 3 younger siblings that they also have to take care of too. So Johnny is getting closer to Shannon. He constantly wants to protect her,
But he's also keeping a secret of his own, which is that he has just had surgery for an injury that he is claiming is miraculously recovered, but the surgery is still giving him symptoms. He's still having a lot of pain, and he doesn't want to say anything because his dream is to be a rugby player, and he is set to fulfill that goal if he could continue on the training that he is right now. So he keeps lying about it, and she keeps lying about her home life, so the two of them are starting to catch on to each other.
I have been reading Binding 13 for the last hour and a half. My bed isn't even made. I'm reading on an unmade bed right now. I don't even have sheets on my bed because I wanted to continue reading so bad. This book is going so fast. I just love it. I do not want to stop reading. I want to know what happens so bad. It really threw me that they were in high school because when I saw Tom in college, I assumed it was a college. It is set in Ireland, so like secondary school and like what they consider high school and secondary school are like different than what we do in America. I'm just really into the story. I love Johnny and Shannon. They are just so cute, and especially since they're in high school and like she's very guarded, he's like taking his time with her, and the fact that he just like considers that his girlfriend and all of the people in his life are like, yeah, that's your girl, and she has no idea. Stinking cute. I'm like more than halfway through. I'm on like 340 and there are 600 pages.
Ladies and gentlemen, I found my 5-star read. Had me obsessed, and I can't even wait for the physical copy to come. I downloaded book number 2 on my phone. I plowed through this. I read every spare moment at work. I just read for a couple hours on the couch. This was so good. Chef's kiss. It was really good. It took me 8 months, but we finally got there. First 5-star read of 2024. These were all the reads I attempted to find my 5-star read, and I'm so excited that I finally found one in Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This video was so fun, and I'm just so glad I finally found a 5-star read. And I'm gonna be honest, guys, I haven't found one since this either. Everything's been really good. Like all the books that I've been reading, they've been really reliably good. They've been in the 4-star category, a lot of them, but I just haven't found that like sweet spot 5-star read. So if you guys can recommend me books that are, you know, like Binding 13 or maybe your personal 5-star read, that would be super helpful. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Look at her style from the street. Look at her style from the get-go.
Yes. Right before this, she asked me why I